You are listening to KSG Podcast. This is a short, crisp, concise, exam-oriented, edited editorial for civil services aspirants. In this podcast, we are going to talk about how electoral bonds work. Source for the content is Udit Misra's article for the Indian Express. Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana has assured petitioners that the Supreme Court will take up for hearing a pending plea challenging the Electoral Bond Scheme 2018. Two NGOs, Common Cause and Association for Democratic Reforms, that is ADR, have challenged this scheme, alleging that it is distorting democracy. The CJI has not specified any date for the hearing. Now, what are electoral bonds? Simply put, electoral bonds are an instrument through which anyone can donate money to political parties. Such bonds, which are sold in multiples of 1000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, and 1 crore rupees, can be bought from authorized branches of the State Bank of India. As such, a donor is required to pay the amount, say rupees 10 lakh, via a check or a digital mechanism. Cash is not allowed to the authorized SBI branch. The donor can then give this bond to the party or parties of their choice. The political parties can choose to encash such bonds within 15 days of receiving them and fund their electoral expenses. On the face of it, the process ensures that the name of the donor remains anonymous. Now, when were they introduced and why? The central idea behind the electoral bond scheme was to bring about transparency in electoral funding in India. In the Union Budget speech on the 1st of February 2017, then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley stated, and I quote him here, even 70 years after independence, the country has not been able to evolve a transparent method of funding political parties, which is vital to the system of free and fair elections. Political parties continue to receive most of their funds through anonymous donations, which are shown in cash. An effort, therefore, requires to be made to cleanse the system of political funding in India. In response, he proposed two main changes. One, he reduced the amount of money that a political party could accept in cash from anonymous sources from 20,000 to 2,000. Two, he announced the introduction of electoral bonds as a way to make such funding more transparent. Formally, these bonds were introduced in 2018. Now, how many of them have been sold? Electoral bonds can be bought only during specific windows of time. The 20th such window between the 1st and 10th of April is currently open. According to a written reply in Rajya Sabha last month, Minister of State for Finance Pankaj Chaudhary provided the breakup of the yearly sale of electoral bonds: 1056.73 crore rupees in 2018, 5071.99 crore rupees in 2019, 363.96 crore rupees in 2020, 1502.29 crore rupees in 2021, and 1213.26 crore rupees in 2022. In other words, in 19 tranches since 2018, when they were effectively available, bonds worth 9,208.23 crore rupees have been sold. Of these bonds, worth 9,187.55 crore rupees have been encashed by political parties. The minister also underscored that no bonds were sold to foreign entities because the scheme does not allow it. So, why have electoral bonds attracted criticism? The central criticism of the electoral bond scheme is that it does the exact opposite of what it was meant to do: bring transparency to election funding. For example, critics argue that the anonymity of electoral bonds is only for the broader public and opposition parties. The fact that such bonds are sold via a government owned bank, that is SBI, leaves the door open for the government to know exactly who is funding its opponents. This in turn allows the possibility for the government of the day to either extort money, especially from the big companies, or victimize them for not funding the ruling party, either way providing an unfair advantage to the party in power. Critics such as Anjali Bharadwaj, co-convener of the National Campaign for People's Right to Information, have noted that more than 75% of all electoral bonds have gone to the BJP, which is in power at the center. Further, one of the arguments for introducing electoral bonds was to allow common people to easily fund political parties of their choice, but more than 90% of the bonds have been of the highest denominations, that is 1 crore rupees. Moreover, before the electoral bond scheme was announced, there was a cap on how much a company could donate to a political party: 7.5% of the average net profits of a company in the preceding 3 years. However, the government amended the Companies Act to remove this limit, opening the doors to unlimited funding by corporate India, critics argue. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. To join KSG in the courses and to crack the ICE exam, visit ksgna.com. You can also get a PDF of this podcast on ksgna.com. Thanks for listening.